It took Star Trek 27 years to move on from the Enterprise. For nearly 3 decades, Star Trek lived in the gravitational pull of one starship. The USS Enterprise wasn't just a vessel, it was the franchise's beating heart, a symbol of exploration, optimism, and Federation ideals. From the original series in 1966 all the way through the 1990s, the Enterprise kept returning in new forms, new eras, and new registries. But somewhere along the way, Star Trek became defined too much by one ship, one design lineage, one idea of what Star Trek must look like. It took 27 years, a full generation of viewers and creators, for the franchise to finally break orbit and say, we can do something else. And in the process, Star Trek rediscovered what it always claimed to be, a universe of infinite diversity, not just infinite enterprises. This is the story of how long Star Trek clung to the Enterprise, and why letting go was the best thing that could have happened. The Enterprise, an icon that became a crutch. The Starship Enterprise is one of the most recognizable designs in science fiction. Those sweeping nacelles, the saucer section, the distinct silhouette, it's a ship that feels alive, almost mythical. Every generation of Trek fans has their Enterprise. TOS fans had Kirk's NCC 1701. The movies had the bumped up, sleek NCC 1701A. The TNG era introduced the majestic D and later the E. Reboots reinvented the classic design for new audiences. This visual lineage created a strong through-line across decades of storytelling. Even when series weren't about the Enterprise, the ship lurked in the cultural DNA of Star Trek. The message was clear. This is the flagship, the vessel that matters. But by the mid-1990s, this iconic status started morphing into a narrative dependency. Star Trek was expanding, Deep Space Nine was boldly going nowhere, Voyager was flung across the galaxy, yet any major movie, major story shift, or major moment seemed to gravitate back to that one ship. The Enterprise remained the brand. And for a while, that was fine. Until it wasn't. 1996 to 2002, the final era of Enterprise dominance. The 1990s were the era of peak Trek. 3 shows running, blockbuster films arriving every couple years, and a fanbase hungry for more. But almost everything outside television hinged on the Enterprise. Star Trek. First Contact 1996 revolved around the Enterprise E and Picard's relationship with it. Insurrection 1998 and Nemesis 2002 continued following the Enterprise E crew exclusively, as if no other ship or captain could anchor a story worthy of a cinematic experience. On TV, the Enterprise wasn't always on the screen, but it was always present. Voyager referenced it. DS9 referenced it. The Federation itself seemed to treat the Enterprise as the ultimate symbol of prestige. Even Enterprise, the 2001 prequel, couldn't resist naming its ship Enterprise, reinforcing the pattern. After Nemesis in 2002, something changed. The movie flopped. The appetite for another Enterprise movie evaporated. And suddenly, the franchise was stuck. Without the Enterprise, what was Star Trek? It took the franchise years to find an answer. 2009. Reinvention without moving forward. When J.J. Abrams rebooted Star Trek in 2009, he faced a choice: introduce something new or lean into the familiar. The studio insisted on one thing: the Enterprise had to be the center again. And so the Kelvin Timeline Enterprise was born, a bigger, shinier, more dramatic version of the classic silhouette. The movie was a critical and commercial hit, but it effectively reset the franchise back to square one: Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and the Enterprise. Nostalgia, not evolution. For the next several years, this remained the face of Trek in mainstream culture. The reboot films were fun, energetic, and bold, but they didn't help Star Trek move forward. They kept it in orbit around the Enterprise all over again. 2017, the turn begins. Star Trek discovers life beyond the flagship. When Star Trek Discovery launched in 2017, it made a risky choice: no Enterprise. At least, not at first. The show focused instead on the USS Shenzhou and later Discovery itself, ships that looked like Trek but didn't carry the legacy baggage. This was Star Trek's first real attempt in decades to chart a new visual and thematic course. The universe suddenly felt broader. New ships, new technology, a new approach to serialization, a new focus on crews who weren't the Federation's poster children. Even when the Enterprise finally appeared in Season 2, it wasn't the centerpiece. It was a guest star, a passing torch, not the flame itself. For the first time in 27 years, the Enterprise wasn't the narrative backbone of Star Trek. It was part of the universe, not the whole universe. Strange New Worlds, a bridge between legacy and liberation. Then came Strange New Worlds. Yes, the Enterprise returned to center stage, but this time something was different. The show didn't treat the Enterprise as the franchise's sole identity. It treated it as one legendary ship among many. The difference? The storytelling was character first, not ship first. Pike, Spock, Una, Lon, Ortegas, M'Benga, these were the draws. The Enterprise was their home, not their reason for existing. And crucially, SNW coexisted with a Trek universe full of other ongoing shows. Picard, Lower Decks, Prodigy, and the tail end of Discovery. The Enterprise wasn't the gravitational center anymore. It was just another star. Picard, and the final release of the Enterprise legacy, Star Trek, Picard ended something the franchise had been carrying for decades, the mythic weight of the TNG Enterprise. For years, fans speculated about the Enterprise F, then the G, then the possibility of a new movie or series returning to that lineage. Instead, the show closed the book. Picard's story ended with a new crew aboard the Enterprise G, yes, but the emotional heart of the franchise had shifted. The show wasn't about the ship. It was about characters, legacy, trauma, rebuilding, and rebirth. And with that shift, Star Trek finally broke free, closing the loop. 27 years of orbit. So where does the 27-year figure come from? 1996. First Contact enshrines the Enterprise E as the franchise's cinematic identity. 2023 to 2024. The modern era Picard, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, Prodigy, and the return of non-Enterprise-led movies and shows cements a Trek universe no longer defined primarily by a single ship. In those intervening years, Star Trek went from Enterprise equals Star Trek to Star Trek equal a universe full of ships, characters, eras, and ideas. It took 27 years to move on, but the move was worth it. Why letting go saved Star Trek? The Enterprise is still beloved. It will always be beloved. But stepping beyond it allowed the franchise to, one, embrace true anthology storytelling. Each show tells a different kind of story, not just a different chapter of one ship's legacy. 2, diversify captains and crews. We've seen every type of captain now: grieving, conflicted, heroic, comic, rebellious, stoic, and sometimes chaotic. 3, explore new corners of the universe. The galaxy feels bigger because we're no longer tethered to one flagship. 4, modernize storytelling, serialization, character arcs, moral ambiguity. These thrive when you're not beholden to recreating the Enterprise format. 5, bring new audiences into the fold. Not everyone needs to know the registry number of Kirk's ship to enjoy Star Trek anymore. Conclusion: the Enterprise is an